Okay, and do we have Marc with us? I think Marc is up next.
Yep, Marc is on next, and we're just transitioning him in there. Marc, can you hear us?
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Marc.
Hola.
I'm so glad to have you with us. You are a video star already, so I knew this would be a good fit for you.
I wouldn't say so much of a video star, but I have been extremely active as of late. Yes.
You have been. So, Marc, I've had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit through social media, but for those who might not know you as well, or just getting to know you for the first time, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and how you got involved in the liberty movement?
Well, who I am, I would say father, veteran, I would guess now Black Lives Matter activist,
Yes.
libertarian. Where I'm from originally, I hail from Miami, Florida, bounced around with my service in the Marine Corps, and somehow, some way, I landed up in North Carolina. And with everything going on in the world, I knew that Donald was in it, and I knew that Joe Biden was in it. So I kind of figured to myself, well, I guess I'm not going to vote. But I don't know how it happened, but I caught wind of the Libertarian Party through Facebook. And I was like, is this a real thing? And then it turned out it was a real thing. It was a real thing. And I just dived in head first, spoke to my professor, who's actually a libertarian. And he gave me some great reads. A few reads that I'm working on is, if I can find it in my notes, it is by Friedman, Capitalism and Freedom.
Which is, good one.
Yeah, which I am diving in and I'm studying and I'm taking notes. One thing that I've learned so far with libertarian, I can never say it right, but being a libertarian is that you gotta be on point. You gotta be on point. You gotta be on point when you're debating these Republicans and Democrats, because that whole your third party will never win is kind of frustrating to hear. So I got to keep my head in the books. So when I am given that opportunity to stick it to them, I will plunge it in deep, real deep.
I love it. Well, Marc, I think that you come from a background that's similar to a lot of people that have kind of found their way organically to the liberty movement, that they were dissatisfied with either party. We've seen so many veterans that have been attracted to the liberty movement. We've seen young parents, you're a young father, supporters of Black Lives Matter, all of these different kind of convergence of people coming together and saying, we think we should have another option, and we think that the liberty movement is it for us.
Yes. One thing that has been really, I would say, not a burden, but like a good pack to carry is promoting it throughout all my social media, whether it's being a libertarian or promoting Black Lives Matter. And at the same time, getting people to understand the right perspective to have within being, whether you're supporting Black Lives Matter or you're being, or what exactly is being a libertarian.
Sure.
I wouldn't say it's difficult, but it is interesting. It's really interesting to see, I've been called a communist. I've been called a terrorist. I've been called everything under the book, but, you got to have tough skin. I don't think I answered your question, and I don't want to be out here ranting with all these great speakers that came before me, because I've been listening all day at work, and I was like, ooh, I'm so nervous. But I just thought to myself, as long as I could be authentic, then hopefully it could stick to anybody that's watching in the live stream.
Exactly. We don't want people all coming on and saying the same damn thing.
I know, right?
We don't need to hear an echo chamber for 8 hours a day. We need people talking about different stuff.
I know, that's right.
So, Marc, I think we've talked to, as you heard people from a variety of different experiences. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how your experience as a veteran, and my brother's a Marine, Semper Fi. So, your experience as a veteran maybe shapes your worldview, or how your experience as a young father has shaped your worldview.
All right, veteran father. All right, starting off with veteran, I was going down a tough patch in Florida, Broward County, Florida. So with the crowd that I was hanging with, I thought to myself, well, I'm about to be a bum. So how do I stop that from going? And then lo and behold, a recruiter came to my school. Fast forward, I'm in Paris Island. Fast forward, I'm in California. Fast forward, I'm in Japan, Okinawa, Japan, miles 36. When I spent 5 years, loved it there. Being a Marine or serving as, active duty military is something that I truly believe that everyone should at least experience, but I know that everyone cannot due to that commitment. And it is a steep commitment. You have your highs and you definitely have some lows. But my time as a Marine definitely shaped and molded my thinking into, hey, we are all the same. We bleed the same, we think the same, we feel the same emotions. Why is this whole stipulation of Black versus white, Latino versus Latino, Asians versus, all these racial slurs that are, don't get me wrong, there are racial slurs, and the racism is definitely in the military. And if anyone wants to argue, I'll argue to the death. It is in the military. But with being a Marine, you are held to a higher standard, and they have a thing called sustaining the transformation, which is something that falls by the wayside, if we're being real here. But sustaining the transformation as being that jarhead, that hard charger, is one of the feats that I think to myself was my downfall. Not my downfall, but something that I failed to do to the utmost of my abilities, because it's hard mentally, and that's not an excuse to say to anybody, oh, don't be a Marine. If you got it, go ahead. It's been my honor serving this country, but it's just, you're going to have some days, there's a reason why we marry young, with BAH to get paid more BAH when you should be getting married for love. There's a reason why we're having all these SARS classes, all these PowerPoints. Hey, make sure you consent. Hey, don't touch her. That's sexual harassment. What's the difference between sexual harassment and sexual assault? And it's like, wow, why are we having all these, shouldn't we be better because we are better? No, because it's happening within the service. Like just now, they found the body of that Sergeant E, because I can't remember his last name, in Fort Hood. Personally, they need to shut Fort Hood down because something's going on. They need to do a mass investigation. But that's veteran. Hey, before I transition to being a father, you will have the best time. Like culturally, I think the reason why America is dying in front of us in real time is we do not want to accept all the vast cultures that we have here. And traveling the world, everyone needs to travel the world. At least go to a different country and see how they operate. The crime rate in Japan is non-existent. Why? Because they will beat you down in jail. Like, not saying that to scare anybody, but my buddy got locked up for being drunk and disorderly and on Naha and Gate 2, and they fed him fish heads for dinner, and I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yes, bro, it was the worst experience of my life.
My brothers have stories.
like prison and any type of criminal offense, if you do a crime in Japan, you're going to feel it, and I assure you. And that's for anywhere. Being an American is really a blessing, and we don't tend to see it due to our, we're complacent, and we just can't see a good thing in front of us because it's tough. It's really tough out there in the real world. But we are too complacent. We're stuck in our phones. We're stuck in our own bubble, is what I like to call it, our own bubble of reality, of influences, of things that we can control. And I'm like, you have to step out of that bubble for you to grow, really, for you to grow as a human being. But let's transition into being a father. That changed my entire life. I am 24. My birthday was yesterday, and so I don't think I'm ready, but I have to be ready. Some days I'm like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to plan her college fund? How am I going to be a good dad for this cold world that we live in? She is a Afro-Latino American citizen, she's only 2. She doesn't know about the things that I'm fighting for, the things that everybody else, us, the Libertarian Party is fighting for right now due to the powers that are currently in place from doctrines that were, made some 60, 80 years ago, 100 years ago, whatever. A lot before I was born. That's one thing I know for sure. Before I was born. And times are changing. Like innovation is key to anything, to a business model. And I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump tried to run America like a business, but unlike his recent history, he went bankrupt, and we're going bankrupt right now in real time. So it's kind of frustrating to see how can we be the change. And I do believe Gen Z is this change. We're stubborn, we're hard-headed. I can say that I claim Gen Z with being born in 1995, with that bridge between millennials and Generation Z. So it's like I'm a bridge between all these old, like I wouldn't say old folks, but older people.
I was say, watch yourself.
And these younger people, it's like, how do I connect that we're all the same? Mm-hmm. Being a father is a blessing. Being a father is a best decision.
And specifically a father to a young girl.
Yes, a beautiful baby girl.
And when we think about women's equality and the challenges that women have had to work through, the barriers, your life experiences have been informed by, some wonderful opportunities, traveling the world as a veteran, becoming a father to a beautiful young girl. This has shaped your worldview. Being from Gen Z has shaped your worldview. And you spoke about barriers and policies that have been in place for generations that are still holding us back. And so, you made the decision to join the Liberty Movement because you recognize that it spoke to your values the most, right?
I know that's right.
So tell me a little, as a veteran, there are a lot of issues specific to veterans for whom the Liberty Movement makes a lot of sense. There are also,
our vets home.
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where no matter how you want to call it or splice it, we're dying out there. Our commander-in-chief is like low-key a traitor with all these with all these allegations that he's having with China, with all these rumors. With if us as a service is trying to hold ourselves up to a high standard, let's get that out of the way, like what they say about Marines. Mm-hmm. The person we answer to, shouldn't that be held to the highest standard imaginable for us to emulate? So with all these notions that's going on against them, I'm like, this man is going to be our downfall. And I'm not saying that coming from, a left-leaning perspective, being, most people of color are raised Democrats. I succeeded and not succeeded, but I transferred into being a Republican during my service because why? All my peers are Republicans. Is that true? Yes. Yes, it's true because, patriarch, like being a patriot. And so I'm looking at what he's done for vets. He's done some good things. He raised, our minimum wage. But why do we bomb Soleimani? And why is there a warrant out for his arrest? Why? That's the question. Why? And so with the rumors that I'm hearing from my active duty buddies is that, they're gearing up for war. I'm not trying to really use OPSEC security because, I don't want the wrong people to hear this, but hey, if you research hard enough, you'll find it. China is preparing for us. China is preparing for us. And when I caught wind of that, we all talked about it in our little group chat. They just told me to be careful with what I'm doing out here, and that's confronting, the racism in North Carolina. I am fearful. The next 10 years, I foresee a big engagement, as well as other engagement that we have ongoing. But we need to bring our troops home and buff up the defenses of this nation, like now.
And Marc, I think you're speaking to an issue that resonates for many women and resonates for parents, that we don't want our country embroiled in wars that we can never win. And we don't want to continue sending our sons and our daughters to wars where they might risk their lives when we have no business maybe being in it. And yes. I say this as a woman, as a military connected family member who has members in every single branch that you can think of. My brother's a Marine, my cousin's a brigadier general. She's a woman as well. But this is something that I feel passionate about, that defending our country means defending our country, and doing that from a place of strength and security here at home. And so my views as a woman about the policy on war and why I align with the Libertarian Party, you're speaking to issues that impact a lot of women and who feel strongly about the view on wars. So tell us a little bit about the liberty principles in the party and how this aligns with your views, because I think women want to hear about how the party, views those policies.
From my personal opinion, and bear with me, don't start nothing that you cannot finish. It won't be no smoke if you don't want to touch the fire. You know what I'm saying? Bear with me. But with the NAP policy that we have, the non-aggression principle.
Yes, non-aggression principle.
So I've been, like I said, I am still in my studies as well. But if I don't hurt another human being with anything that I'm doing, there's no victims, no one's hurt, I'm good. And, as a law-abiding citizen, it'll be to my best interest that, hey, if I'm doing good, if I'm being holding steadfast to what I believe in, and that is being a basic human being, I don't have anything to worry about with him, her, they, she, whoever under the sun. So when it comes to women equality, I was talking to, I talk a lot. I like to host interviews with individuals, and right now it's primarily protesters. Whenever I'm at a protest, I'll just take them to the side and I'll be like, what are your thoughts? And that's my little plane to drag them into the Libertarian Party. But yeah, so when it comes to women, like I said earlier, with sexual assault and sexual harassment, you're infringing on her body. You're infringing on her rights. No one, who raised you? There's no way or no reasoning in my mind that can compel another man or another woman to ever touch somebody without their consent. And as a girl dad, one of my biggest fears is me failing to raise my daughter to, one, defend herself, and two, to know that, hey, this person is treating me in an unjust manner. This person is making me feel less of a human. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough. Hopefully her mother and I can come together to actually do our due diligence to raise her properly. But to put a nice cherry on top, when it comes to my views and from what I've seen with other libertarians, it's your body. Keep your hands to yourself.
Well, and Marc, I love that you brought that all together, because the non-aggression principle really informs our stance on war, our stance on sexual assault, sexual harassment, and aggression. It informs our view on everything, that we uphold the respect and dignity for each individual first and foremost. We respect your right to live as you choose to live, just as we respect another country's right to do what they're going to do and not get into war with them over that. We respect consent between a man and a woman. So the non-aggression principle informs our views on everything, right?
I agree. I didn't know if you wanted me to start talking, but
yeah.
Whoever you are under the sun, I'm not too sure on the pronouns. I'm kind of, learning myself, whether the LGBT community, trans, whether you're trans, black, white, whoever you are. Just keep let people live and keep to yourself. This really, one thing that someone told me earlier when I was, like I said, I do talk a lot, is that, and she spun this really nicely. Americans make laws for Americans, but not humans.
Mm.
And it really sunk. It really hit hard. And I was thinking to myself, wow, because if I know that you bleed the same way that I do, and you can feel the same emotions that I feel, how come I don't have enough empathy to empathize with what you're going through? Why aren't there laws in place right now? For example, everything that's going on in Wisconsin and the rioting and the looters that left 2 killed and 1 injured last time I believe.
Yep.
And last time I looked at it, and every time where I bring this up, or I'm being told, Marc, how do you feel about this? Marc, how do you feel about this? And I'm thinking to myself, the kid, one side says he was practicing self-defense against the protesters, but with a loaded weapon, you have all the protection in the world, while these individuals are unarmed. So where's the equal playing field? You know, why are you there when you're from Illinois? My bad. This is about women's equalities, but there's a lot going on right now when you have mothers, aunties, grandmothers that are either about to lose their daughters and sons and children. Mm-hmm. For example, this kid ruined his family life because now he's arrested. I know how Twitter works, especially Black Twitter. Yes, there is a Black Twitter, the same way that there's hashtag no libertarians under 1K. These hashtags are powerful. You attract the whole world and anybody that can just see your profile. They are searching and researching this man, and they have everything. His Facebook, if he had Instagram, his history, and they're scrolling and they're trying to pull out all the dirt. It's really wild. It's crazy. I don't think I answered your question. I just started ranting.
No, and I appreciate that because you're right. There is so much going on in the world right now. It's hard to separate the issues. It's hard to say, this is one issue, this is another issue, this is another issue. They all bleed together. And they all bleed together to your point about, not treating people as humans and not having that respect for each other, for personal responsibility, respect and dignity, the non-aggression principle. But it would be difficult for us to sit here and say, oh, let's only talk about women's equality when all of these issues impact one another. I can't be a woman in this world and not care about those other issues because those issues are mine. Just as much as the issues of the veteran community or of the Black community, LGBT community, those issues are mine as well. Because if none of us are equal, no one is.
No, that's right.
I appreciate that. And, Marc, you've been able to be very active on social media. You said you're talking to everyone. So let's talk about where and how people can find you. And let's talk also about the group that you help support. It's called Why I Support Jo Jorgensen, correct? So
I know that's right.
Yeah, talk to us about that group and talk to us about how people can interact and find you.
So, my name is Marc Geneus. All my social handles is Marc Geneus, and posted is a link tree. Link tree is basically an app that you put all your you can find me here in a nice little, super nice and convenient. That's one way. Why I support Jo Jorgensen is the brainchild of Sarah, Caitlin, and a couple, Cassandra, and I don't want to say their last name because that's the government. You don't want to do that. And my buddy Josh, who's actually, a good mentor of mine. The main theme of the group is to, after being told by time and time again from spamming all these Facebook groups and links with memes, these are bots. Why are all these bots? If you guys are familiar with that Headstrong dude, Trap, who is Trap? That makes no sense. But when he was going against Spike, and basically he was just drunk. So it's like, why are we wasting our time with these individuals that will not let us win? The goal right now is to win. Why I support Jo Jorgensen is just a Facebook group. The main goal is for you to promote, a 2 minute, 30 minute, not 30 minute, 2 minute to 30 seconds video of the reasonings of why you promote or why you do support Jo Jorgensen and Spike Colin and the Libertarian Party. And basically, really, with the hashtags that we use, why you're a libertarian, your reasonings or your principles or what brought you here. So I would say it's basically this whole live stream that we're doing, but you can do it. They can do it. Somebody from Oregon, Tallahassee, hopefully it blows up and we can actually use these videos in the campaign. So that's Sarah's goal. So.
Well, and that's our goal at People for Liberty. And one of the reasons I reached out to you and to Sarah, because we want your voices to be heard. And so this live streaming event is one of those ways that we're helping to get that, awareness out there. But I would love for people to visit your group on Facebook, to connect with you on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And Marc, if you had parting words about women's equality, and again, we've talked about how all of these issues really interact and impact all of us, what would be some of your words to the women?
You could do anything that you set your mind to, honestly, and that's really with anything in this world. I have the pleasure of serving under some great women in the Marine Corps, great leaders. One of my favorites is Sergeant Chanel Horn. I would say her name because she is, I would say, a public servant now. She do have a lot of medals under her belt, but just hearing how she cared about her subordinates made me want to be a lifer. That didn't happen, but just lead by example. You know, when it comes to everything that's going on in the world, all the injustice, you got to stand for it. You got to stand, not stand for it, but stand against it.
Yes.
You know, with your chest held high, because women, like, without you guys hitting the streets and protesting, we wouldn't have you wouldn't have had rights. And I did some research as to exactly why. 1848 Declaration of Sentiments, 1893. That's when New Zealand actually grant rights for women to vote. And 1975, you know, Iceland, women and people of Iceland strike for equal pay. Equal pay should be regardless, because you're working, you know. So, which is another policy within the libertarian campaign, you know, to get rid of that minimum wage, and that the employer and the employee, you know, negotiate, hey, how much you should get paid, and how, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll leave you with this. Common sense. Americans, I feel, are lacking common sense. You know, if the job posting says, you know, you gotta live 50 lives, you know, and not to you know, claim, but if I was a woman, I wouldn't want to, you know, not to you know, like, I could do what I want, actually, if I wanted to, but I don't want to sound ignorant. But you can do whatever you want. But common sense dictate is a big that I think that we're lacking in this nation when it comes to equality. It shouldn't be a option.
So, Marc, what kind of world do you want your daughter to grow up in?
One filled with love, man. One where people are judged by the content of their character, and not what they look like or not what they do, especially. But some things are unforgiven. But if you can just practice being a basic human being, you know, with basic human decency, with empathy. I've been saying that a lot, because that's what I feel like people are lacking, empathy. Then hopefully maybe the generation after us, or we can build a society where we can love our neighbors, you know? And that's my goal. That's if I could just change one perspective at a time, make them think just a little, not left-leaning, but a little with more compassion and love, then hopefully I'm on the right track for my daughter.
And you feel that the liberty movement, the Libertarian Party, is that party of human decency and for love and empathy?
I know, yes, ma'am, because why? I'll leave you with this. Trump is Trump. You know, you could just look at his background and how he basically commandeered the entire Republican Party. And with the Democrats, like, they're just pandering to the minorities. Like, there's no way all these promises, change will come, but when? That's the thing. When we've been looking at you guys for years now, and it's just a whole bunch of empty promises. Like with Nancy Pelosi, like taking a knee in Kute cloth, like, or Joe Biden, you know, I guess being baited into saying, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And I'm like, oh, you lost me there, buddy. Who's next? Who else we got?
Hey, Marc, real quick, from the chat, somebody wants to know your opinion on the wall of moms and people putting themselves in between protesters and the police.
It's scary. I don't know if anybody has actually been to a protest. Like, on my page, I try to document everything. These mothers are God's gift. I've never seen anything more powerful and embodied. I get chills looking at them, and I'm not even trying to sugarcoat it. Tear gas hurts, and rubber bullets hurts. And if you haven't experienced it, count your blessings. It does not feel good. And these moms have children. They have a whole family to support. And it's like, and you choosing to put this movement in front of your well-being, like, let's be real. Like, the Black Lives Matter has been not commandeered, but it's been infiltrated by negative forces, and we all understand that. We don't support the organization, but the movement behind it is what we support. And there's a lot of people that want to do ill will to peaceful protesters that are trying to get their voices heard. So with the moms in Portland, Oregon, if they ever see this, hey, from North Carolina, from everybody on the East Coast, please stay safe. It's not just you. It's dangerous out there. People are dying. Don't let it be you. Please don't let it be you. I didn't mean to take a somber tone, but people understand the gravity of the situation.
I appreciate that, and you got me feeling some feelings now, Marc.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is emotional stuff, and I appreciate feeling feelings. So, Colin, thank you for sharing that question. Marc, thank you for being with us. Love interacting with you and can't wait to do more of it. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, guys.
Bye, Marc.
Bye.